Levin, and today we will be talking about his most recent book, The Mosaic, and we will get some top tips on how to connect better with people. So here we go. It's just connecting now.
Hello.
Hello, Daniel. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me, Daniel?
I can hear you now.
Hello.
Are you doing it video or without video?
I'm doing it with video. Are you happy enough with video or audio?
I'm happy to do it any way you want, but I don't see you.
Oh, right. Well, I've got my video on, my webcam on, but I can hear you all right. Is your
You might. I see me, but I don't see. I see a picture of you, not you.
Oh, that's strange. Anyway, I'm happy enough with to proceed with the interview. There must be some technical difficulties. I don't know, but I can see myself.
Do you want me to try and call you back?
Well, I'm happy enough going forward with this interview.
Okay. All right. Good.
Okay, Daniel. So let's just kick off and let's talk about your most recent book, The Mosaic, and it's how to connect better with people. I like how you've used your parable of Mo and how he has lost his parents and he's on a quest as such to find. Would you like to talk about your new book?
You're doing great. Go ahead. Tell me what you tell me what interests you.
Well, I would just, it's just for my own personal development, and how to build deeper and meaningful connections with others, in spite of perhaps disagreements
Okay.
that may arise. So it's how to overcome, especially with loved ones or work colleagues or friends, when there's disagreements that may arise, and how to overcome those barriers to build an effective communication with others. I can see you now.
So have you read the book? Is that how did you find me?
I found you online. No, I haven't read your book yet, but I want to get your own understanding of the book before I delve into it, and
Okay.
what inspired you to write it.
Okay. Have you seen my website?
I haven't seen your website yet. Oh, actually, yes, I have been on your website. That's a lie. Yeah.
TheMosaicOnline.com or
Yes.
Daniel Bruce. Okay. All right. So, all right, let's just try and I'm going to try and answer up a question that I don't really hear you asking. I hear you asking a question of how do we relate to people in a time where people disagree with each other a lot and there's a lot of conflict. How do we connect better with people? Is that sort of what you're asking?
Yes, that's the question I'm asking. Thanks very much.
Okay. All right. So, when you say connection, what does it mean to you? Explain to me that connection.
So connection to me is building congruence with another person. Um, you can have a connection with another person. Uh, you know, the key is not to, especially in situations where there's disagreement, not to escalate feelings of anger, but to sort of de-escalate. Um, build or develop a common understanding between you and another person, especially with a loved one, or it's all about positivity, congruence, empathy, putting yourself into their shoes.
So if that's the case, why isn't it working?
I think that there's a barrier. I don't know if it's a personal barrier or perhaps I'm not doing it effectively as I could, but there's definitely some sort of maybe resentment or animosity, particularly those who maybe disagree with some of my ideas or criticize me or marginalize
Okay.
me.
Okay. So um, thank you for being so honest, first of all. That's important, and a lot of people aren't vulnerable enough to be that honest. But Chad, for me, the reason why it's not working is because you're trying to get to the fourth connection without going to connection 1, 2, and 3 first. And what the Mosaic has taught me is that when most people think about connection, they think about how do I connect to another thing, another person, a work, a planet, a party, a whatever that is. But there's three connections that have to happen before you can connect effectively to anything. The first connection is a connection to yourself.
Hmm.
If you already come into the game disconnected from yourself, unsure of who you are, the world, when I grew up, I'm 63 years old now. I gave up most of what the world thought was valuable. And people would laugh at me saying, "Oh, you've given up so much and just to go find yourself." Like what? Like what are you, crazy? You're like, why are you looking so hard to find yourself? But in the world now that I see at 63 years old, I don't see people who know who they are very much. I see very few people who know who they are. So if I don't know who I am, and if I'm not connected to who I am and what I believe and what I know, and all I do is I hide behind the wall that doesn't want you to know that about me. So when I feel that way, I'm insecure. And so I put a wall around myself to make sure that you don't think worse of me or you don't attack me for not knowing who I am, because I think you know who you are, but I'm wrong. You don't know who you are. So how do I connect with anybody if I have a wall around me, if I live in a silo? How do I connect with anything if I have walls around me that don't allow anybody to come in? All that happens, Chad,
Hmm.
is my wall connects to your wall. But that's not a very fulfilling relationship, because you don't know me and I don't know you. And that's the way most people live. But most people haven't even bridged the gap of their own wall.
Hmm.
We put ourselves down so much. We're so hard on ourselves. We beat ourselves up so much that we've actually built our own wall to protect ourselves from ourselves.
Daniel, that is a very interesting insight. Um, do you think that wall is manufactured by our ideologies, the culture we grew up in, or are they uh, constructs of our own understanding? Are they, in other words, are they influenced by outside
No,
forces?
no,
Okay.
no. I mean, that's the common belief that because you're like in America, because you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, I have to I have to segue myself because you're in the, you're in Brightex and I'm not. We've got to protect ourselves because you think this way and I think that way. But Chad, this is the most important thing. If you get nothing from our conversation, when we don't know ourselves, we try and protect ourselves because we think that you will find out that I don't know. If I don't know myself, I'm going to build walls around me so that you don't. So I hope you don't ever see that I don't know myself, because I'm scared of what will happen if you find that I don't know myself. I'm scared of what you will say to me, because I live in a world where I believe other people, because I read Facebook and I look at all the people that are doing happy, successful things, and they post those moments in time where they are happy. They don't post all the other moments in time where they're scared to death or vulnerable or sad or mad or upset. And so they make me believe that they're doing better. Here's what we do. Here's what I've done a lot of my life. Because I didn't want you to see who I was, I built a wall around myself and I painted that wall with all the beautiful things that I've done. And that wall started to look like me. And you would come up to that wall and you would think, wow, I'm meeting Danny. Isn't this, look at all the fabulous things he's done. But you're not meeting Danny. You're meeting this make pretend wall that I've put up around me to make you think that I'm something other than what I am. How do you connect with anything when you're not connecting to yourself? It all comes down to every single thing that happens comes down to the fact that we live in a world where people don't know themselves. We don't know who we are. And when you don't know who you are, the people screaming the loudest attract your attention. When you do know who you are, you can walk into any room, and rather than being affected by the room, you affect the room.
Daniel, that's a very interesting insight. So basically, I just want to clarify, you're talking about the self, in other words, the inner self, the
I'm
unconditioned.
talking I'm talking about the totality of self. There is no in a mosaic where everything we're in a world where everything is connected, there is no separation. And part of the reason we don't know ourselves is because we continually separate out parcels and say so our real self is our inner self or our deeper self or our wider self or our bigger self, but it's not the self that we're walking in. Our self is all of ourselves. And when we don't allow the pieces of our mosaic to all come together to create who we are, we have no idea who we are. We start to believe, oh, I'm the higher self, or I'm the deeper self, or I'm the inner self, or I'm the outer self. There's only one self. There's only one person named Chad. There's only one person named Danny. Out of all of creation, from the beginning of time till the end of time, I am the only one who will be me. Don't you think it's important to know who that person is?
Of course, but it's not living in disillusionment. I know oftentimes people can become super egoistic and this is me, this is who I am, but it could be the false me.
They only become lost in disillusionment when they believe that the wall of around them is who they are rather than the one who is inside the wall. When we take down all of the walls, all of the pretense, all of the ways that we show up, of I can only show up as my highest self. No, bullshit. You know what? When I have a friend, my compassionate place to be with my friend is in holding the space for them to show me everything about themselves. To show me their pain, to show me their suffering, to show me their joy, to show me their revelation, to show me their challenges, to show me their victories, to show me their defeats. When we live that way, there is no pretense of this is who I am and no ego around it, because the only reason I have ego is to defend myself from being myself.
Yes, I can totally relate to that, but I would like to look at it in a different light. I know you
Okay.
mentioned there about your friends, but what about your enemies? How can you
What about
overcome?
your enemies?
Uh, I mean, it's a totally different boat, isn't it? But do you just have the same approach, or does it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why are people your enemies? Why does someone try and hurt you? Here's a very simple theory. It's a conflict resolution theory that my developmentally delayed daughter taught me, and I use it in government, and I use it in corporations, and I use it in businesses, and I use it with entrepreneurs, and I use it with families. My daughter doesn't speak the way you and I speak, so she tries to communicate. And sometimes I understand her and sometimes I don't. Well, when I don't understand her, she screams. But it wasn't the volume that I didn't get. It was just like she didn't speak clearly enough for me to understand her. When she screams and I don't get her, she gets frustrated and she throws a tantrum. And when she throws a tantrum and I still don't get it, she comes running at me to try and attack me or hurt me or rip my shirt or bite me. Now, thank God this hasn't happened for a while. But along the way, somewhere along the line, after years of doing this, I asked her, Elisa, are you trying to speak to me in a way that I'm not understanding? And in the middle of a tantrum, she just started laughing and smiling. As if, oh my God, finally you got it. And I said, tell me how you're trying to talk to me. Since you can't use your words and I don't understand your words, how are you trying to talk to me? And she took her finger and pointed to the side of her head. And what I understood from that was she was telling me she's putting thoughts into my head. And I had felt those thoughts, but I just didn't trust them. And I said, so you're telling me you're putting thoughts in my head to communicate to me what you want? And she started laughing uncontrollably and happy. And she said, yes, Daddy, yes, Daddy, yes, Daddy. And what I realized in those moments is that every single person I know acts exactly the same way. If they say something to me and I don't understand it, they yell. They scream it. If I still don't get it, then they throw a tantrum. They create a scene. They try and do something to make me stop in my tracks and say, listen to me. When I don't understand that, they try and destroy something. So when you have an enemy, quote unquote, what would happen if you just allowed yourself to say to them, clearly, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me. Will you take a few moments? And I'm going to create a container here, a space for you. Will you just tell me all of the things that bring you pain and suffering? Will you tell me all the ways that I have hurt you or that you feel hurt? And when they do that, you don't defend yourself. You don't rationalize. You just hold the container for them to do that. And the compassionate place that you hold for them literally allows them to free themselves of all that pain and suffering that's inside of them, because now it's come out of them and it's in this space. And to the extent that you can really listen to friend, enemy, person who wants to love you, person who wants to hate you, to the extent that we can listen to another person, to the extent that we can be vulnerable, we can connect to them. And the only way we can do that is if we know ourselves. Let me go back to the 4 places, because I've spent a lot of time on knowing yourself. Mm-hmm. The second connection we have to make is to know our source, to know there's something bigger than ourselves. Once we know ourselves, we have to see that there's a universe or a God or something, whatever you want to call it, that is in charge of this whole thing, that is running it. There's an intelligent consciousness that is moving the world, that we are not alone in this world. We're not trying to do this on our own. There's a reason why we're in this situation. There's a reason why we're sitting in front of our enemy and we think they're an enemy. But it's not to fight them. It's to increase our understanding. And when we see that, then what happens is we start to realize there's something bigger going on than just what we see. The world that we live in is not the world that is. It's just the world we choose to live in. When we see that there are other worlds, bigger worlds, more reasons, more things that are going on than what we can see, we start to become humbled by that. And we start to look for the things that we can't see, in addition to the things that we can see. So once we are in touch with ourselves and know ourselves, and then we know that there's a source, the third connection we have to make is, what's our purpose? Why out of all the people in the whole world are we here? What did we come to do? How do we take all of this information that we're now getting, because we know ourselves and we're open to the world around us, and we're open to something bigger than us? And how do we now start to identify out from all that information, what is the information that will help us to achieve what we're here to do? And we start to then go to the 4th step, which is build connection. But we're creating kind, vulnerable, purposeful connections with other people. And those are the connections that literally, when a small group of people come together with that mindset, those are the people that change the world.
That's a very interesting observation, very thought-provoking, and I like how it goes in steps, and that each step is connected to the other. But that you've hit a key thing, and it's purpose. So that's a key topic. I mean, motives, agenda, we all can contribute in some way to the ultimate purpose, if we have a shared goal, and then that can build up better connections with others.
So I'm gonna turn over your table.
Okay.
Because we don't have to have shared goals. The problem with our society now is what was once the thing that was our saving grace has now become our nightmare. And that is like-minded communities. When we were alone and felt isolated from the world, and we didn't see other people who lived like us, when we found other people who believed and thought and felt like us, We finally felt like a fish in water, and we jumped into that pond with all the other fish, and we loved being in our like-minded communities. But everything has a time and a reason and a purpose and an end. And the place for like-minded communities is now over. Because what's happening is our silos of like-mindedness are getting bigger and stronger, and the gaps between our silo and the other silos that don't think like us are getting wider and deeper. It's time for us to melt down those silos and come together again in fields where we meet with people of unlike mind and like mind, where we don't have people that want the same purpose that we have, but we listen to people who are purposeful people, that are kind and vulnerable, who can speak without anger and listen without judgment. And we innovate together because we hear new, fresh ideas. We see the world through different perspectives. We see different points of view than the ones we always see in our like-minded community. And that's where change happens. That's where radical transformation happens. Because as long as we keep staying with the same people who see the world the same way as we do, we'll never see anything different. But we need to see something different in order to innovate. We need to see something different to take a world that's in conflict out of conflict into peace. And we'll never do that as long as we stay with the same people who want the same results as we do.
And we're all in this big mosaic masterpiece together.
We can't avoid it. We are all connected, even though all we do now is focus on how different we are.
Yeah.
It's just a lie. Chad, the lie has become so easy to believe we call it the truth. And the truth has become so hard to believe we call it a lie. And the truth is that we are all connected. We are all, quantum physics is telling us that our bodies, even our bodies that we live in, that we stay in 24 hours a day as long as we live. There's nothing solid in our bodies. There's no matter in our bodies. It's all made up of swirls of energy. So what you're exhaling right now, I'm inhaling 10 seconds later. We are the same molecules. We are the same energy. We're made up of that energy, and that energy is what makes us alive. We're not different. We're not a black skin or white skin. We're not an Englishman or an American. We're not a man or a woman. We are energy. And we believe the form version of our life so much that we think that's the truth, but that truth is a lie. That's not what we are. That's only what we are on one dimension. That's why when you said, are we talking about the deeper self? I said, no, we're talking about all of ourself, because all of ourself is who we are. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, Daniel, it makes sense. We can each share in our own uniqueness, but at the same time, we're all unique, and we all have shared we all share in this experience called life. We're all part of the same energy, or whatever you would like to call it. We're all in this together, in other words.
So let's make it practical.
Okay.
Let's go back to your question, and I want you to answer it for me. How do you do this with your enemies? Tell me what your answer is now, if it's any different than it was before.
So first of all, that label, I first of all would not see them as enemies, first of all, and try to establish commonalities with another by recognizing that we can each share in the moment our own selves. So it's not about putting a label on it. I wouldn't put a label on I wouldn't label someone, there's my enemy, there's my friend. I would, show love, show compassion, share.
And how would you show love and compassion?
By not putting up barriers. To establish this is who I am, but realizing there's a vulnerable self to me. There's a vulnerable side of myself, a kind side. That barrier can be broken down by me because I created it.
Okay. So let me jump in just a minute, because one of the most important things I think is important for me to reiterate, because I must not have said it so clearly. The difference between a friend and an enemy is that we haven't listened enough to our enemy to know that they're our friend. And when we give people the opportunity to say what they think, to believe what they believe, when we hold the space for them to tell us and share with us who they are, those people don't blow up our buildings. Those people don't try and destroy us. Those people don't run at us and try and bite us. Those people don't throw tantrums. Those people don't scream anymore. Because even though I disagree with you, even though I may disagree with you, I still respect your right and honor your belief that what you believe is what you believe. And I acknowledge that, I validate that, I accept that, and I honor that.
Okay. Yeah, it's all about respecting the yeah.
It's about listening.
Yeah, listening.
Like even in our conversation here, with all due respect, I don't know you from Adam. Okay, we know each other all of about what, 15 minutes. Even in our conversation here, you have a script that you came into with.
Yeah.
Okay, and you want to go by that script.
Mm-hmm.
But that script prevents you from actually hearing what I'm saying, because I took us off script immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But your desire to go back to the script is making you not hear the point that's the most important point to hear, which is all that's needed, the only thing that's important, is that we start to listen to each other, that we start to listen to ourselves, that we start to get to know ourselves and listen to what it is the world is trying to say to us.
Daniel, I really enjoyed listening to you. I think you have shared some very interesting nuggets of knowledge, and I definitely will. You're okay with me posting this up on YouTube?
Sure. Let me know what happens as a result of it.
Because I definitely think a lot of people would benefit from this conversation that we've had today.
So if you will do this too, then will you put a link to Amazon for getting my and a link to my website?
Yes.
And a link to Amazon for getting my book? And here's what I want you to do. I want you to buy my book online.
I will definitely be buying your book online.
Okay, I want you to just go there. You can get a Kindle version of it. There's no shipping. There's none of that. Just buy the book. I want you to read it. I want you to take the time to get to know what this interview is about.
Okay. Thanks very much, Daniel. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.